Welcome to Prop Lock and Drop It. Prop Lock and Drop It, an Action Network show that tells you which props to bet during the NFL playoffs. Wild card round is in the books. We're in the divisional round now. I'm Tim Kalinowski. I'm joined by Sean Koerner, Nick Giffen, and Chris Raybon. Three guys that are as good as it gets when it comes to betting player props, not just at Action Network, but across the industry, I would say. Here's how it's going to work. Each of these guys, they're going to give one prop, and then I'm going to, decide which one I'm going to add to my betting card, even though I'll probably take all three. And then we'll do the whole thing again. 2 rounds. So if you're watching this, you'll get 6 props handed out to you. If you think I'm a poor judge, a corrupt judge, maybe a biased judge, you can decide for yourself. Just to update our leaderboard from the wild card weekend, Sean Koerner, you were 0-2, but you had a little fun with your second one. So you're only dash 1.1 units. You gave that Gibbs kind of long shot, and we didn't dock you for a full unit there, just a 1/10 of a unit. Nick, you went 2-0. I didn't pick any of your props. You still swept. You're probably hoping I don't pick any of yours today to continue your winning streak. Well done. You're up plus 1.87 units. And then to round us out, Chris Raybon, you go 2-0 as well, plus 1.79. And me being the judge here, I went 1-1. Yeah, I took that Koerner one. So again, only for a 1/10 of a unit, but we're here, divisional round. We got to start it up. Sean Koerner, you're rocking the Packers hat. Is that the team? Is that the direction that you are going?
Yes, it is. And I guess I'm going with a go big or home strategy. I'm going with another kind of long shot here. I just think this is a bad number, but I'm going with a longest rush prop of the Packer-Niner game, and I'm going with Aaron Jones to have the longest run in that game. You'd be shocked to hear that he's actually 7-1 in this market. 7-1. And the way you find it is on DraftKings, you go to receiving props, ironically, and you scroll all the way down and you can find the longest rush prop market. That makes a ton of sense. But this is a market where obviously Christian McCaffrey should be the favorite, probably a large favorite, but he's minus 425. I simulated this game out. I don't know how you get him that high. I could see making him maybe minus 250, minus 300. Again, he should be the massive favorite here. But when you look at the second player in this market, it's Jordan Love at 4-1, which doesn't make sense. And then you have Aaron Jones and his backup, or third string running back, Emmanuel Wilson, tied at 7-1. So this doesn't make sense. I just think it's a bad number. Aaron Jones is plus 950 in this market. I don't know what the hell's going on here. But Aaron Jones himself is playing very well lately. He's cleared 110 yards in 4 straight games. He's had a long run of 20 plus yards in 4 of the last 5 games. So when you look at Christian McCaffrey's prop in this market, it's 19.5. So, he's been doing really well in this market to begin with. So after simulating it all out, I think the worst case scenario you can get for him is plus 350. So I think we're getting twice as big of odds here. Let's make it a full unit play. I got to catch up to these guys. So let's make it a full unit play.
Oh, my man. Yeah, you know who the judge is. You came in, you came in off the bat with the Gibbs one, which was fun, but weren't really in the money for very long on that one. But I will say, San Francisco 10th rated rush defense per PFF. Obviously, Aaron Jones had a monster game in the wild card weekend, 3 touchdowns, and also A.J. Dillon. He was a limited participant on Thursday. Not that I think he would be, someone's second pick or third pick to break off a long run here. So I like where your head is at with the Jones prop. Nick Giffen, looking to go 3-0. What is your first prop?
Yeah, so little preview. I'll have something similar to Sean's for my second pick, but for this one, we're gonna go plain and simple. You watched me on the touchdown show last week. We were successful with the touchdowns as well. So I'm gonna take Gus Edwards anytime touchdown at plus 130 for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, look, Gus has 13 touchdowns in 17 games this year. Now, of course, sometimes he gets multiple touchdowns a game. So if we look at just the number of games he scored in this year, that's 9 out of 17. That's still more than 50% of the games. So getting plus 130 just based off that, if that were the criteria, would be pretty good. But there's more to it than that. If we look at Baltimore inside the 5-yard line, they've had 30 rush attempts inside the 5 this year. Gus Edwards has had 19 of those 30, or 63.3% of the rush attempts inside the 5-yard line for the Baltimore Ravens. That includes, having guys like Justice Hill or Lamar Jackson on your team, or previously Dobbins or Williams. So, Mitchell. So a lot of guys here that could have had carries, but it was Gus Edwards typically getting them. And he's had 12 touchdowns on those 19 carries inside the 5-yard line. And that includes the first 5 weeks where he had really low red zone usage. He only had 3 carries, not just inside the 5, he only had 3 carries inside the red zone in the first 5 weeks. And then they kind of shifted things up. Obviously, Dobbins got injured, etc. So the usage shifted there. And since then, he's had 36 red zone carries in just 11 games, because I'm not counting week 18 where they were resting starters and stuff as well. And he played a nominal amount. So 36 red zone carries in the next 11 games. And that's kind of what we can expect from Gus Edwards here. Baltimore should be able to move the ball on Houston's 16th ranked defense by defensive DVOA. So while, yes, Houston is second in defensive DVOA versus the rush, should be enough opportunities just to move the ball in Houston's defense in general to make Gus kind of like a coin flip for a touchdown. So, despite the fact that Houston's allowing the 6th fewest yards to running backs overall, they've given up the 12th most rushing touchdowns to running backs. So it shows as long as you can move the ball on them, you can score on them via the rush when you get inside the red zone. So like I said, I have this projected at basically a coin flip. So really like getting plus 130 here.
Yeah, and I like the last part of that you mentioned. I would be nervous about Baltimore hitting kind of a home run play and not having a chance to rush the ball inside the 5-yard line and give it to Gus. But if they can get there, the rock is likely going to him. Surprising with his usage inside the 5, knowing what Lamar Jackson is capable of. I looked at Gus Edwards, touchdown stats. 7 of those 13, Nick Giffen, are of 1 yard, which is pretty hilarious. And I will give, we played a contest last week, $100 bill, $100 for someone to tell me Gus Edwards' longest touchdown this year. How many yards?
Well, there was one outside the red zone, so I know it's longer than 20 yards.
67? Oh, really?
I think so.
90-yard reception.
Well, Nick Giffen, I had a 7-yard rush as his longest.
Oh,
really?
Oh, damn.
Maybe
you
I'm
could
missing
possibly
something.
double check me, but yeah, that's what I had. If you're right, I'll send you this in the mail. But if you look that up in the meantime, Raybon, you were 2-0. You can give me your first prop.
All right. Well, last week we went with a Texan running back under. We're going back to the well here. Devin Singletary, under 16.5 receiving yards. He's had 13 or fewer receiving yards in 15 of his 18 games this season. He's been targeted on just 13% of his routes. And 2 of the 3 times he went over 13 receiving yards this year, 2 of the 3 times, CJ Stroud was not his quarterback. Only 6% of CJ Stroud's targets have gone to Devin Singletary. Only 11% of CJ Stroud's targets have gone to running backs, period. We know Stroud is gonna, drop back, and he's looking downfield. He can also scramble a little bit. So checking down is really not what he's been doing a lot of. And if you look at Singletary and his receiving yards this year, he has just under 200 on the year, not many. 36% of them have come with Case Keenum and Davis Mills at quarterback. And Singletary's been less efficient with Stroud, just 4 yards per target compared to just under 8 yards per target with Keenum and Mills. Baltimore is top 10 in DVOA on running back passes, and Marlon Humphrey, Baltimore's top cornerback, ruled out for this game, and that's going to help Nico Collins and his matchup. And with Nico Collins getting a softer matchup, that's only going to help receiving unders for the entire Texans team, because Nico Collins is the most explosive Texan receiver. So, now he's more likely to hit big plays. He's more likely, to put up his usual 100+ yards. And that's going to really put a dent into Singletary. Also, Singletary has played on, over 50% of the routes or of the dropbacks, I should say, over last few games, and he has been getting, all of the backfield work over Dameon Pierce, but that could actually go down because the Texans haven't been in many negative game scripts as of late. And when they are, you're going to see more of Dare Ogunbowale, who is the passing down, third down, and hurry up back. So I love the under on Singletary, 16.5. I would take this down to 13.5. Again, he's only gone over that in 3 of his 18 games this year.
Raybon said it's a pretty compelling argument. I can't believe the splits with Stroud, without Stroud. I will say, as much as I love Sean Koerner's long shot, as much as I love the argument that Nick Giffen laid out for Gus Edwards, I'm sorry, but Chris Raybon, I'm going to go with you. I think you are going to be the pick I'm going to lock in. And you couched it a little bit with the, taking it down to 13, the times he's gone over 13 receiving yards. The number you gave out, 16.5, it only happened one time, and it was without CJ Stroud. It was with, he only did it once with CJ Stroud, I believe. But either way, it's one time really we're looking at here for this, gigantic sample size of an NFL season. Last week, Singletary, 3 targets, 3 catches, I think 4 yards, something like that. So yeah, outstanding yards per target there in the last game. So Raybon, you are our winner. And also, Nick, I appreciate you typing to me that I was right about the Gus Edwards prop. You know why I was right? Because I wrote it all by hand, game by game. I wrote them all down.
I was thinking he had 13 touchdowns this year and 12 of them came in the red zone. It's 13 touchdowns this year, 12 of them came inside the 5 is what it was.
There you go. So Chris Raybon is our winner with Devin Singletary under 16.5 receiving yards. On to round 2, top of the order, Sean Koerner.
All right, so I'm going with Blake Cashman over 7.5 tackles and assists. You can get this at -110 at BetMGM. He is the linebacker for the Houston Texans, and they face the Ravens this weekend. And if you haven't sweat a linebacker needing to get tackles, you have not lived. So this is going to be fun. But, he's leading the team in tackles and assists against the run, and I have the Ravens projected for around 32.5 rush attempts, which is by far higher than their season average they've faced. So I think he's going to be heavily involved here. Plus, the Ravens are much more likely to get in the second level when they run the ball than other teams, so he's going to be more involved on tackles. And he also leads the team in tackles in the passing game as well. So I have Lamar projected for around 18.5 completions, and a lot of those are going to be over the middle of the field. He's actually 3rd in the league in targeting over the middle of the field. So that's why linebackers usually rack up a ton of tackles against the Ravens. But I think this sets up perfectly for Cashman. So I have him projected for around 5.5 tackles in the run game and about 3.5 tackles in the passing game. So I'm closer to 8.5, 9 tackles here. I think 7.5 is too low. So I have this being anywhere from like a 62 to 65% chance he clears his prop.
Well, I mean, you notice on this show, you notice how we haven't given a lot of big time names. We haven't listed a lot of Travis Kelce's out there, Mahomes, Tua's, Hills. It's been you guys go in the weeds for sure. And I will ask you this before, just to take into consideration here as the judge. Koerner, have you ever been screwed either after a game or late in a game on a stat correction for the tackles assist type prop?
Yeah, I think the Cam Curl one, it depended what number you got. I think they took away an assist from him. I definitely been screwed on like the last play of the game. We had the infamous Joey Porter Jr. tackle. He just accidentally touched a player that was down to end the game. That screwed it. So these can be wacky and fun at the same time. Like I said, it's a good sweat though.
Yeah, I think our ideas of fun are a little different. I'm really worried about getting whacked with a stat correction when I have 2 others to choose from here. As we paint that picture, Nick Giffen, you're back up.
Yeah, well, I alluded to it. Sean gave out a Aaron Jones to lead the game in longest rush. What I'm going to do in the same game, I'm going to take Deebo Samuel to have the most rushing plus receiving yards in the San Francisco Green Bay game at plus 450 at DraftKings. Gonna throw a half unit on it. But so I'm going full Koerner here. I'm not going full send mode.
Not playing catch up. Not playing catch up.
Just to help you all find this, I literally could only find this at DraftKings. So you have to like go to DraftKings, go to NFL, click a game, and then you have that little menu at the top that you can scroll left or right. You got to scroll all the way to the right, and it's divisional round specials. Then you have to scroll all the way to the bottom, and that's where you'll find game leaders just above octopus. Will there be an octopus? So if you like an octopus, it's 12-1. But no, we're gonna go Deebo most rushing plus receiving yards in this game. Now look, I know Christian McCaffrey's in this one, but Deebo, he gets yards either way, and they'll be looking to him a lot in this game. Green Bay, they're 5th worst in the NFL in explosive play rate allowed against the pass, and I've removed passes inside the red zone because a passing explosive play is counted as 20 yards or more. So you can't have an explosive play if you're inside the 20-yard line. So just looking from outside the 20 or 20 outside, Green Bay is the 5th worst explosive play rate allowed against the pass. And Green Bay is 7th worst in terms of rush yards per attempt allowed to wide receivers. So there is a lot of opportunity here for Deebo Samuel to have some explosive plays. Deebo is also really good, like elite versus zone coverage. And while Green Bay hasn't played as much zone as they have in the past, they're around mid-pack this year. They are in the bottom of the NFL in terms of explosive play rate allowed when they do play zone coverage. So, expect a lot of chunk plays for Deebo Samuel. They'll be looking for him because Deebo Samuel gets increased playoff usage. In fact, if you look at his current rushing plus receiving yards line of 80.5, he's cleared that in 6 of 8 relevant career playoff games, not counting the game where San Francisco literally had no quarterback. You got Brock Purdy, who's got an elbow or something that's hanging on by a thread. We're not counting that game. But in 6 of 8 relevant playoff games, he's cleared 80.5. There could be some weather, looking at the forecast, there could be some wind, there could be some rain. That may force a little bit of a shorter passing game, would certainly make it worse for a guy like his teammate Brandon Ayuk, who's looked at a little bit further downfield if it's going to be into the double digits in wind. And just that poor footing for the defense, if it's a little slick, Deebo will know where he's cutting. The defender's going to have to react. It could create a little bit of slippery footing there. So I really like this at plus 450. I am very high. I'm higher than Koerner and Raybon. Look, these guys are the most accurate projectors, but I'm higher than both of them on Deebo for rushing plus receiving yards.
Yeah, you're tugging at my heartstrings here. I love Deebo Samuel. He might be my favorite player in the NFL. I know I got my Clemson gear on, Deebo, South Carolina guy, but he is a tank. And when you take into consideration the playoff usage, he seems like a break glass in case of emergency type guy. Like when it's a big game, when it means something, you go to Deebo. You're not worried about injuries. You're not worrying about, saving him for a later date. This is the later date. So that is, that's a good one to consider, Nick Giffen. I know I've shunned you twice here, but I really like, 3 times now. I'm
keeping track. Don't worry.
And by the way, for those at home, the octopus is when a player scores a touchdown and then that same player gets the 2-point conversion. Always a fun Super Bowl bet. I think I hit it 2 years ago, I feel like. But yeah, always a fun bet. Raybon, you're batting last year. Finish us off.
I'm going Xavier Hutchinson under 15.5 receiving yards. Who is this? So exactly. He's the guy that's not going to get many receiving yards. He's the Texans' number 4 wide receiver now that Robert Woods has been removed from the injury report, and you have Nico Collins healthy. You have John Mechie emerging as well. Had a really good game in that wild card round. So this prop probably is gonna be in free fall, but I have his median projected for 4.5 yards. So there's a lot of room here. I think the books are kind of assuming that he has like a normal target per route rate, but he doesn't. He's been one of the least targeted players on the Texans. Only 11% of his pass routes have ended in a Xavier Hutchinson target. And I already mentioned, Nico Collins matchup improved with Humphrey out. Nico's at 26% target per route. Woods and Mechie are all, right over 17 plus. So, Hutchinson is a guy that not only did he only see the field on 35% of the snap with Robert Woods leaving early and Noah Brown leaving early last week. But, he is now, going to be back to that fourth receiver role. And that role for the Texans, it could be, 25, 30%, but it could also be like 5 to 10%. Because, we've seen that when they have all their guys healthy, and it's a little different from last week when, we knew Noah Brown was banged up. He was questionable. We knew Woods was banged up. He was questionable. So I think it was, betting something like this last week would have been a little dicier, if there's an in-game injury or whatnot. But now you got all three guys healthy. And when those guys have been healthy, we've seen quite a few times the Texans have just rolled with those three guys and not really played their backups. And Hutchinson just hasn't been good this year. In the last 3 games, he's been on the field. Last week, just 2 catches for 12 yards, despite, getting increased playing time. I think more than he's going to get this week. Week before that, just 1 catch for 6 yards on 4 targets. Week before that, just 8 yards on 2 catches. So he hasn't even
You're reading my stat line.
He hasn't even cleared 6 yards per catch over the last 3 games. And he hasn't even cleared 8 yards. He's only cleared 8 yards per catch 3 times all year. So this is another one of these that I know we're already on one Texans receiving under, but I think they're going to be a very concentrated target share. We know Stroud doesn't target running backs, and we know Xavier Hutchinson just not playing well and probably going to see a dip in playing time. So I think this is a bad line. I would have this in the single digits. So give me Hutchinson under 15.5 receiving yards.
Raybon, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Sunday night, whenever you do it, and you start handicapping these games, these player props, do you just start with the lowest numbers, the guys with the lowest totals, and work your way up? Is that how it goes?
Nah, actually, it's not. I just, I'm just kind of fiddling with the projections, and once I feel good about, I go top down. So once I feel good about, my projected score and line and my quarterback projections, passing yards, completions, things like that. Then I start digging into, okay, who has a good matchup, what are the route distributions going to look like and the snap distributions. And, there's usually going to be a couple of guys that pop out. It just so happens that they're in the same game. But I think there's clear value on both of these. So give me a couple of unders attached to CJ Stroud. What could go wrong?
Exactly. And frankly, I'll be honest, our producers, whatever, I'm happy to be here with you guys, but this show sucks. Like the fact that I have to tell 2 of you guys, you're wrong. I'm not taking it. Like me, big dumb idiot over here has to like have 2 guys on the outside looking in, 1 guy every week without getting chosen. It's a tough situation to be in. Sean Koerner, the defensive player, was almost immediately thrown out because I just don't know if I have the stomach for it. Raybon, you go with the 2 Texans receivers unders or receiving yards unders, and I worry about a trailing game script with them being 9.5 point dogs. How many times are they going to be chucking the rock in this game, especially with a lot of action experts on the first half Ravens spread. So that leads me to you, Nick Giffen, and I'm going to take your Deebo Samuel to lead the game versus the Packers in rush plus receiving yards at plus 450 on DraftKings. If you can take the time to find it, I think it's a great look.
Let me just say, so Sean talked about Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones in that market is plus 275. I have Deebo, like I said, I'm higher than Sean and Raybon in my projections. I have Deebo and Aaron Jones pretty much neck and neck. So I think plus 275 is around where I would bet that down to maybe like 3-1, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Love it. Well, there you have it. First one was Chris Raybon's Devin Singletary under 16.5 receiving yards. You liked it down to 13.5, correct, Raybon?
Yep.
And then the second one was Nick Giffen's Deebo Samuel, most rush plus receiving yards in that game against Green Bay, plus 450 at DraftKings. There you have it. The divisional round of prop, lock, and drop it. Good luck to you fellas this weekend. I'll be honest, I'll probably be tailing all 6 of these. Good luck to everyone else in your player props and your betting lines. I hope you win, as long as it's not against any of these fine gentlemen right here. We will see you next time for Conference Championship Weekend on the program. For Nick Giffen, Chris Raybon, Sean Koerner, I'm Tim Kalinowski. Enjoy Divisional Round Weekend.